Well, I knew the Steam Deck would be popular. I never thought it would be this popular. Well, Valve's first foray into the handheld gaming market was always going to be unique enough that it attracted a lot of attention. They've sold out. Which is weird. Well, it's not exactly sold out because we're still in the pre-order stage. But even immediately, this pre-orders only opened 2 hours ago. And this article, written about 2 hours ago, is already complaining that they couldn't handle it. Yes, people were having a lot of difficulty even checking out at the time. And I know what you're thinking. That's understandable. Yes, of course, when it first launches, everyone's logging in for the first few minutes just to try and get their reservation number ordered. Except that's not the only problem. You see, even now, 2 hours later, they've just turned off reservation. The reservation servers are busy. 2 hours later, you can't do it. You can't even get in line to buy this thing. I have no idea how this is. Steam, for anyone that doesn't know, is the largest marketplace for all of PC gaming. It basically services the vast majority of PC purchases. Their servers are insane. They're used to, like, exponential growth every year. And I'm sure they have enough server capacity to handle a hell of a lot of orders for all of their games across their systems. So for something to actually take that down is impressive. Impressive indeed. Now, Steam actually did a lot to combat scalpers and just make sure that people are actually interested in it. Firstly, you have to put £5 down, I believe it is, in order to £4 down, $5, in order to reserve this, and you had to have bought a game on your Steam account before June 2021 in order to actually even reserve it. This is to combat scalpers, so they can't just make up a load of new bot accounts the day before it goes live. So it's a good idea, and you can only order one per account. They've done a lot in order to limit how many people can buy, so no one can just buy all the stock, or as it's a queue, just take up massive amounts of queue time. And it's not like Valve said they didn't expect this kind of demand. If you go and actually look at it, Gabe said he was actually expecting to sell millions of units. And obviously not immediately, but over time. Who knows if they're hitting that now. But he said that the pricing was painful to pick. And yeah, when he said that, he really meant it. He actually sounded in physical pain as he's describing the amount of money that he's charging for each device. And the only difference between the devices is the amount of storage and the type of storage that they have. So you can see that actually, when you look at the hardware costs, it's very, very competitive with other things. So you build a PC for this, and you're not going to get very much. So the fact that they've managed to get this power into that kind of price point is awesome. And let's have a quick look, for those of you that don't know the exact specs inside, what those specs are. And for the money, you get quite a lot. You get the latest AMD APU, which is 4 cores, 8 threads, based on Zen 2 architecture, which is the last architecture, but RDNA 2 GPU, which is the most modern architecture for the actual GPU built into it. Now, they say it's 2 teraflops, which is, as far as I can grasp, meaningless. It really is a meaningless statistic. This is why I wish they'd given it to more people besides IGN. If they'd given it to more people, you would have had people that were running benchmarks against games, and we really could have compared it and see how it stacks up with other things. So those would be the only really objective tests you can do. And I really do wish we'd seen some real-world benchmarks against games that we all know how they play, so we can actually judge the power over it rather than just what is essentially marketing terms. Now, it has a 1200 by 800 touchscreen monitor on it, although most people seem to be calling this 720p. It's essentially that. It's just a slightly different aspect ratio. And all of the models has SD card capability. Now, SD cards, I am dubious about exactly how they can run games, but it probably depends on this type of card you get there, and really, again, I wish that was something we could have benchmarked. The base model is $400 at 64 gigabytes of storage, and the next two models have NVMe storage, which is drastically faster. You go up to 256 gig for $529, or the top end is $649 for 512 gigabyte version. This storage, the NVMe storage, is the only difference between all of the devices, and the price point, the only actual hardware difference, is the storage in it, although they do say that the top-end version will have a anti-glare, sort of anti-scratch screen, so there is that if you're interested. And one of its main advantages is that this is just a PC in a small form factor. It's not locked down at all. Any software you want, you can put on it. If you can do it on a PC, you can do it on this. Any peripheral, it's all acceptable. Now, it does come with Steam OS on, which is basically a Linux with Steam's own software on it. And this will have a sort of a software layer called Steam Proton, which will enable you to play Windows games on Steam OS. But if that has any compatibility issues, if there's any sort of anti-cheat which just needs to be installed, which can't be installed on Linux, that's still not a problem. You can just put Windows on it. So, literally, any OS, anything you want, you can play anything on this. If it's got the power to run the game, it can run the game. And it just makes things a hell of a lot simpler and easier to do. There was always going to be problems trying to get games to run on Linux. There was always going to be odd errors and weird side cases that were never going to work properly. So just opening this up and allowing anyone to run anything on it is a great decision in my book. And even though they're going to come out with their own dock for it later on, which will be sold separately, if you've got a USB-C dock that you want to use with this, you can do that. And that's what I really like. I hate where people make walled gardens and lock things down. It's very anti-PC, and this is the exact opposite of that. It's awesome. I love it, and for me, that's one of its greatest selling points. Just the fact that this is truly your device. When you get it, you can do whatever you want with it. You don't have to get permission from the platform owner just to use your device. And honestly, I really like it. At the moment I saw it, I thought it was a great idea to do. I was saying a couple of weeks ago that the Switch, it just had no competition. They were only held in the game, and I wasn't expecting Steam to come out with anything like this. Although apparently it was known about before, and they were going to call it the Steam Pal, which is an awful name, but apparently that was just a code name. I'm not sure what I think of the Steam Deck, because it's so close to the Stream Deck, but here we are. But overall, I think it's a great device. Being able to take your Steam library anywhere is awesome to me, and honestly, I can't see why I would ever choose a Switch over this, except for the games at this point. This is drastically more powerful than the Switch, and that matters to me, especially being able to play the Steam library where I have so many more games, so many games which I've loved for a long time compared to the Switch. As far as I can see, this just has upsides, and I really want this to get into the reviewers' hands. Things like the ergonomics. Yes, Steam have now a lot of experience after making the Vive controllers, so I'm sure they know a lot about ergonomics and making things feel good in your hands. So I'm really not that concerned about the hardware. Any Steam device I've had has been decent hardware. Whether it's been a good idea or not is a different question, but this is definitely, to me, a good idea. So I think they've got the knowledge and the experience to make this a good thing, and I'm really glad to see that it's sold a lot of copies. I think this could be the start of what is a brand new area in PC gaming, and quite honestly, anything that gets more people into PC gaming is alright by me, especially if we can get these touchscreens to catch on. If we can start getting more gamers used to the idea that when you're using a controller, a touchpad is just better for FPS, then that, for me, will honestly be the biggest advantage of this. I wanted touchpads on controllers to take off for a long time, so as far as I can see, this is only upsides. The two things I'm hesitant about with this device is that it's a 40 watt-hour battery, which they say gives 2 to 8 hours of gameplay. Like they said, Portal will give you 4, although if you lower it to 30 FPS, you'll get like 5 to 6. Portal's not the most energy-draining, graphic-hungry game that there is, so I think you could be down there in the 2 to 4 hour quite often if you play something like Doom, for instance. So the battery does concern me a little bit, as well as the loading times and stuff on SD cards. That's something I think it'll take till we get to reviews, when we can start getting some real tests done in hard numbers, and so I'm really looking forward to that. But for now, anyone that managed to get the pre-orders in, I don't blame you at all. And from first impressions, it's definitely something that I think looks great and I'm interested in the future. But for now, that's it for me. If you like the video, press like and subscribe for more videos in the future. What do you think of the Stream Deck? Let me know down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.